Hello and welcome to Deloitte's Cyber Insights series. These insights are focusing on the world of data breach. We hear more and more in the news about businesses suffering data breaches, and experts say it's now an issue of when, not if, a company suffers a breach. And when they do, it's the customer's personal information that's ultimately at risk. I'm joined now by Dominic Cockram, a risk advisory partner at Deloitte. Dominic, what trends are we seeing?
Good morning, Claire. I think it's interesting, as you say, that experts believe now it's much more a case of when, not if, breaches will take place. And I think what we're seeing in the advent of GDPR, obviously landing in Europe last year, is a lot of news in the media about the big breaches. And it's interesting, I think, when you look across to America, where data breach has been a much hotter topic, I think probably for a much longer period of time, where they've had deeper regulations in place around the requirements on business to notify for some 10 years or so. Those requirements on businesses in Europe now have been tightened up under the new General Data Protection Regulation, and businesses now have to notify the regulators within 72 hours, and they have to notify their customers without undue delay, which is quite an awkward phrase, and many of our clients are looking and trying to work out, well, exactly what does undue delay mean? What's interesting, I think, is when you look at America and this mature marketplace in breach response, that over there they have developed a very comprehensive range of services which will support businesses when a breach happens around notification, engaging with the customers, and providing the customers with identity protection. In Europe, I think it's very interesting that we see that business area really only developing, and it's very immature at the moment.
But when it happens, the most important thing is to put the customer first, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think this is why the Americans have become so mature, because they are a very customer-focused business arena, and reaching out to those customers when a breach happens is absolutely vital. One of the trends that I think we see is that businesses, when they have a breach, their first consideration is naturally about containing that breach, getting it under control. And naturally, they then also very quickly start to think about reputation, because there is a high likelihood that they're going to be in the news if it's a big breach or if they are a big brand. However, the people who are really genuinely at risk when that breach happens are the customers, because the criminals who have stolen the data subject's information are then going to use that in order to go and attack those individuals at home and try and use that information to actually extract financial gain from those people. Therefore, the customers are the people who are at risk the minute a breach happens. And businesses really need to focus on the fact that they need to start worrying about mitigating that risk as fast as they can. This is in part why the GDPR regulations have landed, in order to force businesses both to notify the regulators, but also to reach out to those customers quickly. And obviously that is a decision a business has to make about how quickly they're going to do it. But the slower they are in notifying customers, the more risk those customers face that information will be used against them. And certainly some of the breaches we've seen recently, there have been quite long periods of time where customers have been waiting to be notified as to whether they were part of the breached community or not. Was it their information lost or not? And this is one of the challenges now that businesses face in this very new environment. So
how can they prepare then?
I think really it's a case of looking about the two aspects around what can you do beforehand, and are you really ready to run fast when a breach happens. If you've got those two aspects put together well, then you'll be in a good situation to actually get on with it. The challenge businesses face is that breaches aren't happening every day, so it's not business as usual. Therefore, they need to put effort into that preparation, thinking around what is their strategy when a breach happens? How do they plan to do things? Can they draft some of the messaging beforehand? And actually, what capability and what capacity do they have to reach out potentially to a very large customer base in a very short period of time? And I think that is one of the areas where businesses are really beginning to focus in Europe now, around genuinely what is their capability to conduct this very complex operational activity at high speed, potentially in the glare of the media spotlight, when they also want to continue, obviously, with business as usual at the same time. And I think that challenge is where businesses are beginning to look at how do they do this? Do they obtain support from elsewhere? Do they try and run this themselves? Can they manage up to a certain scale? And then do they need to bring in external support to help them?
Thank you, Dominic, for that insight into the issues around data breach, and thank you very much indeed for watching.